Hi, my name's Jack. Today I'm going to teach you how to test email verification codes using Cypress and MailSlip. So the problem we're trying to solve is writing an automated test for an application that uses email magic links to verify new users. So in our test we're going to use Cypress to load an application, fill out a user sign-up form, and then receive emails through the MailSlip API. We're then going to extract a verification code and enter that into the verification form. So to give you a little look at what this looks like, I've got a demonstration app here at playground.mailslip.com, and in this app users can sign up and receive a verification code. So if I demonstrate now creating an account, we can see that it's asked me for a confirmation code, and that will usually be sent to my email address. I can enter it and I can confirm my account. But how would I write an automated test for this? We can see the code down here. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. So we're going to use the MailSlip API. This is a free service for developers that lets you create email addresses in code and then read the email contents within tests. So if we go to docs.mailslip.com, we can find an integration for the Cypress test plugin. And if we go to app.mailslip.com and we log in, we can find our API key, which we'll be using in these tests. So let's go ahead and start setting up a new project. So if I create a new project in my editor, let's install Node and set up the dependencies. So I'm just going to initialize a new project. And then let's install, say, Cypress and the Cypress MailSlip plugin. All right. Let's wait for that to install. Just time for a drink of coffee. Now we can run npx cypress open. So for the first time, this will help us set up our tests and configure the project. So it should open up this window. Let's click on end-to-end testing. There's going to be an end-to-end test. Wait for that to load. It's telling us it's going to create some configuration files. Let's click OK. We're going to test with Chrome. And click Start End-to-End Testing. Now we want to create a new test spec. Let's say create the spec. OK. It's going to run this test just to make sure everything's working for us. And it's worked fine. OK, that's good. So if we go back to our test, let's think about what we want to test. We want to load the application and we want to fill out the form. So let's just see if we can load the application. So it was at playground.mailslip.com, and I'll just make my screen a little bit bigger for you. So let's try running this. If we open up our editor, we can run it with the headed option and just see if this executes correctly. Okay, we can see it's opening Cypress. And the test passed. Okay, that's great. So what we want to do is we want to create a new email address and then fill out the form on the playground. So in order to do that, we need to configure the MailSlip plugin. So if we go into support and go into E2E, we need to import Cypress MailSlip. Let's do that. Like that, okay. And then in our test, we need to configure the MailSlip plugin with our API key. So we'll go back into E2E, go spec. All right. Now we want to create the email address before our test. So let's say before each, and we'll say cy.mailslip, and we'll use this like this. And if we go to our dashboard, we'll say API key equals our API key. Great, okay. So before each test, configure the MailSlip plugin, and then we can call then on there. We're going to create an inbox for the test. So creating an inbox means creating a new email address. And then once it's created, we're going to save that onto the test instance. So we can say cy.wrap, and we can wrap the inbox ID as inbox ID, and we can wrap the inbox.email address as email address. Great. Okay, so that means we can access those values later in the test using this. So if we make sure that this function uses function notation and not arrow syntax, we can access these values on this like that. So let's just expect that this exists and that the email address contains at mailslurp. The ending can differ. So let's just try that. So we can run our test again. Okay, our test passes. That's great. I wonder if we can put a debugger here and no, we can't actually. That's all right. But the next step would be, now that we have an inbox, we need to fill out the username and password form. So if we go back to our app, back to sign in, this is the page we're loading. We want to click on this create account button. So let's find out what that's called. This is a test ID here. You can see in my inspector I'm finding a data test element I can select for. So we'll go back to the test and we'll say cy.get. We're going to click that button and I'm just going to surround it with square brackets like that. We're going to click it and that should take us to the sign up page. Take us to sign up page. And now on the sign up page, if we actually click this, we want to fill out this username value. So the username has a name, email. Okay, so cy, we're going to get name, email, and we're going to type in our email address. And we may need to trigger a change event on that. And then for the password, we're going to just add a test password. So let's just say password. We'll put a value up here. Remember, this is just a test, so we'll just put test password there. And then we need to actually click submit. So that's the button here, and we'll take the value and we'll say get and close that like that and click. Okay, and after that we should see a new screen. So let's just tell it to wait after that, 1200, and let's just see what happens. So let's run it, have a drink of coffee. Okay, we can see our form's been filled out with a new MailServe email address, and yes, we can see our confirmation code here. So this is the step we're at next. So now we need to fill in this data confirmation code element. Okay, so the next step then is to find out how to fill that. Looks like we can copy that, and let's say get. That's what we want. Now, how do we find the code for this? Okay, so we need to wait for the email to be received. So we do that by saying cy.then, and we'll put in a function like that. Make sure it is a function. Actually, we want to say cy mailserve. We need the mailserve instance. So say function and put in mailserve there. And now we're going to use mailserve to return the latest email. So here you can see my editors suggested wait for latest email. So that will wait for the latest email to arrive, and we want to add in a wait time, and we want to say only return the unread items. Okay, and then after that is received, we should have an email, and then the email should contain some value. So in order to test it, let's just say expect email. We'll say expect email to body contains hello. So that should fail, but that's good. We want that to fail so we can find out what's in the body, and then we can write a regex to extract it. So let's run this again, see what happens. Okay, it's loading. Enter the password, and it failed. It's saying that our confirmation is not correct. Okay, that makes sense. We've done this wrong. What we need to do is we need to say then, and we need to pass in our API key again when we're using a new instance. So let's just make this a bit cleaner. Up here where we put the API key, let's just put that here, and we'll replace that with an equals, and put the API key like that. Okay. Yep, that looks good. Okay, that looks better. Let's try run this. So we put the API key in the CY mail slip. Loading again. Fills out the form. It's waiting for the email, it's saying. Great, okay, so we got an error, which is what we wanted. And so here we can see the email. It says, this is the value we're getting. Your demo verification code is. Okay, so how do we extract the code? Well, I'll show you. What we want to do is we want to make a regex, and we'll say code is, and then we want to match for six numbers. So we can say 6 numbers, and we want to exec that on the email body, and we want to grab the first match. So it's actually index 1. So the first element will be the full thing, and then the element number 1 will be our match. And then let's just make an assertion on this here so we can test it. Let's say expect code to equal, we'll say 1, 2, 3, just so we can test it and make sure it's working. Okay, so let's run that again. Okay, it's loading the app, it's creating the inbox, signing up, it's waiting for the code. Right, okay, so it is extracting the code correctly. We can see it's thrown an error, but that's okay, we wanted that. So let's just remove this assertion, and instead what we can do is we can now fill out the confirmation code element, and we can click the button. So put the code there. So what I'm doing now is I'm filling the confirmation code input, and we also need to click the button. So in order to do that, I'm just going to trigger this again. Okay, let's click create an account. Okay, so when we fill in the confirmation code, we then need to click this confirm button, and the data test element is there. So we can click like that, and then we say click. Okay, great. And after that, it should take us back to the login screen again. Okay, so if all this works, let's then just wait again, and we'll use that to inspect the code and see what's happening. So let's just reformat this, reformat the code. Okay, let's have a little look at what we've got here. So before each test, we are creating a new inbox using the MailSlurp plugin, and we're saving the inbox ID and the email address on the this instance. Then in our test, we're loading the playground, we're asserting that the inbox and the email address exist, we're clicking on the create new account, we're then filling out the email address using that email address, and we're using a test password. We click the sign up button, then we're using another MailSlurp instance, and we're returning the latest email address. So we're waiting for the latest email in that inbox. So this will hold Cypress connection open until the email is received. And then in the next step, we're extracting the code here with this regex. Then finally, we're filling out the code form and clicking submit. And then we've got to wait here so that we can inspect it. So let's run that and see how far we get, see if this works. All right, the tests are loading. Fills out the username, password. It's waiting for the confirmation code. Confirmation code was received, but there was a problem because couldn't find the element. We might have taken this value wrong. Okay. Aha, so we've put the wrong value there. Let's try that again. Data test ID was wrong. Time for some more coffee. Okay, it's waiting on the code. It entered the code. Great. Okay, so we're back to the sign in page. So once the code's added, we can now enter our username and password again and click submit. So what have we got here? We've got a name as username, and we've got a type name password, and then we have the sign in button. What is this? There's type submit. Okay, so we can just write the final part of our test to fill that in. So let's say cy.get name equals, what was it? Is it username? Name is username. And we need to this dot email address. Now we need to make sure that we are in a function. So put a function like that so that we have the right scope for this. And we need to do the password again. We can just copy these maybe, put them in there. And then we need to click the submit button. So it might just be easiest to say type equals submit there. And if that works, we should see a surprise. So let's put another wait here and see if it works. Okay. Now let's stop that and let's run it all again. Cypress is loading. So it's a different email address every time, which means the application treats us as a unique user. This means we can run the test many times. Okay, we've got a problem. See why trigger failed. You try to continue the... Okay, where are we? Line 16. No, that's wrong. Where did we get to? Cy get type. Okay, I guess this trigger here, confirmation code, is not needed. Was it trigger? Yeah. Try to continue the command chain. Okay. Put that like that. Let's try this again. We are having a few problems here. Cy trigger. Where is that going wrong? I think it's on this, isn't it? We maybe just don't need that trigger, do we? Let's try that one more time. Have a little look at where we might be going wrong here. Get. Type click. Should be alright. Test is running. Yes, it worked. Okay, we just had to remove those triggers. When we can see the welcome page, so we see a little dog. And in order to just finalize our test, we should see an H1 that contains the word welcome. So we can write a test for that. We can just say hget H1 and should contain welcome. So we can put that there. Great, that should be our test. So now we can run the full test again and just make sure it all works. Let's do that. Wonderful, it's looking good. It fills out the password, signs in, and everything passed. So we have successfully written a test that generates a new email address each time the test runs. It fills out a username, password, and it waits and receives an email address, an email confirmation code. So the real key parts here are waiting for the email and extracting the code. So we also use the Cypress MailSlip plugin as well as Cypress, and we set up the support for the plugin in support E2E. We imported Cypress MailSlip. And if we go to our MailSlip dashboard, we can view all our emails, etc. In a UI as well. So here we can see the actual email that we were testing with. We can view it in this UI. So that's very helpful when we're testing. So if you'd like to try this yourself, just head on over to mailslurp.com and you can create a free account and you can configure your account with Cypress and you can start testing yourself using disposable email addresses. I hope that helped, and reach out to us on Twitter or at support, and we'd love to hear from you. Thanks a lot.